Hey everyone, welcome back once again to my channel. Today I have my fall reading wrap-up video to bring to you. So I ended up only getting to 5 novels this fall season because one of them was an absolute brick. It was pretty big. It was The Terror by Dan Simmons, but I am excited to talk about it. It was a roller coaster ride, to say the least, that's for sure. But yeah, I'd love to get into that one a little more with some other more well-known authors. One other author I had never heard of, but I got a recommendation from a fellow booktuber, which I enjoyed. So yeah, another mixed bag of stuff. It was heavily on the horror side of things once again, especially with it being the fall season and such. So yes, let's get right into it. All right, like I said, let's open up with The Terror by Dan Simmons. This is probably like the 5th or 6th book from Dan Simmons that I've read, and it was one of the better ones, to say the least. So I wasn't quite sure about this one going in. Just seeing how long it is, as you can see, like I said, it is a brick. And it took me a little bit to get through, but that's not to say it wasn't good. I was reading this one quite frequently, and I really did get into it. So basically, the story takes place in the mid-1800s as a couple ships depart from, I think, the UK, and they're exploring the Arctic for new habitable land, I guess you could say. That back in that time, there was a lot of unexplored parts of the globe that people were trying to find out if humans could live there or not. So the Arctic being very desolate, obviously, there's really nothing there but snow and ice. They go and they prepare for their ships to get iced in and stuck for the winter. And they basically live on their ships and survive in the winter until the ice thaws out and they can move again. So The Terror basically takes place of the story of these 2 ships, one of them being called The Terror. And they're stuck in the ice, and the ice just tends to stay frozen. It doesn't thaw, and they can't move. And they start, year after year, they start getting worried that their provisions are going to run out. And they're going to end up starving or dying of hypothermia. So I found this story really does pick up when they end up departing from the ship, which is probably the last like 60% of the book. So really, the parts where they're stuck on the ship at the beginning of the novel really didn't really have anything to do with where this plot was going. So all the action and everything like that happens when they get off the ship. There is a bit of a supernatural element to this novel as well, as they think they're getting basically stalked by this. They think it's a polar bear, but it's obviously doesn't have the entire characteristics of a polar bear, as it's much bigger and they can't really, it's much swifter. It ends up appearing out of nowhere and disappearing, and they can't quite pinpoint what exactly is killing their men, which was a very intriguing element to this novel. I found that was the part of it that kept me, really moving in terms of I want to figure out what this thing is and what's going on here. Because otherwise, at the beginning, it is very fact-based. There's a lot of it can be a bit of a dense read, as Dan Simmons can do at times. But yeah, overall, it is a very entertaining novel. This one as well, I must say, it's, I like to describe some novels as like, this is a claustrophobic novel if it takes place in tight spaces. This one, I would say it's a hypothermic novel, if that makes any sense. You're going to feel like you're freezing the entire time you're reading this, because constantly talking about frostbite and being out in these crazy below 0 temperatures and all the fun stuff that comes with being stuck in the Arctic, I guess. So yes, it's a survivalist novel and very unique to me because I had never read anything with that sort of setting. the Arctic. You know, when you think of survivalist novels, you think of like Lost at Sea or in the jungle or on a desert island, something along those lines. But this one was very unique in that sense. I definitely recommend this one. All right, next up I want to talk about a novel called The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. This one was one I picked up watching a fellow booktuber, and she recommended this one. And I was like, what the hell? Let me pick this one up. It sounded intriguing. So this one, it's a bit of a haunting ghost story in a way. So it basically takes place over 2 periods. So there's part of the novel that takes place in like the mid-80s and part of the novel that takes place in like 2017, which would have been, I guess, present day when this came out. So the novel surrounds around our main character, who she is trying to uncover the mystery of why her aunt went missing back in the 80s. So you see it from 2 perspectives. We read from the aunt's perspective, so she is a character in the novel as well in the 80s, and we read it from our main character's perspective in present day, trying to solve her mystery. So it is very unique in the sense that you know she disappeared, but you're reading along as she is encountering what went down in the 80s, the mystery we're trying to solve in the present day, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm having a hard time trying to explain it, but I hope you understood what I was getting at there. In saying that, it's a very fun read in that sense, because it's one of those where you're thinking along with it. And if you're into like creepy ghost stories, then this is the one for you, because the Sundown Motel is obviously inhabited with some sort of spirits and disgruntled ghosts from the past who had a bit of a bad way to go out. They ended up being, you know, murder victims and such, which is the mystery we're trying to solve of the whodunit of it. So yeah, this is a fun read for sure. It won't disappoint you. It's a pretty easy read. I mean, it's not too long, and this is one, it's a page turner. It's one you're going to want to get to the end of pretty quick, because you'll be interested to find out, along with your main character, of who actually did it. Next up, I read another John Avijde Lindqvist novel. I am obsessed with Lindqvist right now. He is one of my favorites. This one was called Handling the Undead. So this was Lindqvist's unique take on the zombie genre, as he tends to do. He tends to take a rather commonly used genre like vampires with Let the Right One In, or Let Me In, no, Let the Right One In. I know it was a different title for one of the movies, but yeah, Handling the Undead was what he did with the zombie genre. I must say, although I did enjoy the novel, I was a little underwhelmed, and maybe that's my own fault, because I hyped this one up a little more than I should have. I look forward to reading his novels as much as I enjoyed Let the Right One In. So this one basically, it is a zombie novel, as corpses are coming back from the dead, but not in the sense that, you know, Dawn of the Dead or The Walking Dead, where the zombies are trying to eat people or harm people. They were just kind of like getting up and walking around. And basically the intrigue of this one was the fact that if that were to be happening, people would be interested in if their loved ones that they had lost were now up and walking around. And it follows a few different perspectives and a lot of different people reacting differently to this. So yeah, it's interesting in that regard, where it was kind of playing on what is this going to do to the psyche of the still living, and how would they react and how would they deal with this situation. And a lot of people dealt with it in a lot of different ways. So yes, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of action to this novel. It was a little slower paced. I was a little underwhelmed with it, but if you're a Lindqvist fan, if you've read a few of his novels, I think you should check it out. It's still a good read. It's still Lindqvist doing his thing. Up next, I read Night in the Lonesome October by Richard Laymon. dipping back into the Richard Laymon pool here. I absolutely love the first 4 novels, I think, that I've read by him. This one was good as well. In true Richard Laymon fashion, it takes place all in one sequence of events. Basically, the whole novel takes place over, let's say, 2.5 to 3 days. So this one, as it usually does with his books, it delves into the psychology, into the minds of disturbed people. Let's just put it that way. This one follows our main character as he enjoys to take some night strolls. He's an insomniac, and he likes to walk around the streets of his local town at night and basically just observe, I guess. I found the characters in this novel were super paranoid. It was like he's walking down the street in the middle of the night and a car is driving by and he decides he needs to hide. It's like, why are you hiding? Like, it was constantly that kind of stuff going on, when he wasn't really doing anything and he was just completely paranoid of the situation. But in saying that, as the novel progresses, he seems to be getting more and more adventurous, even coming to the point where he's checking people's front doors to see if they're locked or not. He ends up meeting a girl that he becomes obsessed with, who he ends up befriending, who's kind of like him, doing the same kind of thing he does, just walking around at night. And our story progresses from there. The ending of this one is actually really good. I want to say the first like 100 to 150 pages is kind of like, okay, what am I even, like, what's going on here? What's the purpose of this? But as you progress, I'd say once you hit the midway point of this one into the home stretch and the conclusion, it's pretty good, with a destination we get to that I didn't really see coming. I don't want to say it was a twist, but it was just kind of like, oh, I didn't really expect us to be going down that road. So yeah, and I feel like all his books kind of are the same that way. So I did enjoy this. It is a good read. And again, like I said with Lindqvist, if you're a Laymon fan, check this one out. It's really good. And this one's also a little less pervy than most of his novels. I always expect that going in, especially after reading The Island. But yes, this one was a little bit less pervy, just a little bit. It's still there, as you know. I don't think he can really help himself. He can't really write a novel without having, you know, a perverted character in it in some way or another. But yes, Richard Laymon, well done once again. And finally, we come to the 4th book in the Odd Thomas series, Brother Odd. If you've been watching my most recent wrap-up videos, you'll know I'm pretty much mixing in one of these into every one now as I'm making my way through the series. And, sorry, did I say 4th book? It's the 3rd. Yes, the 3rd book. So they seem to be getting better as they're going along. So I like the 2nd book better than the 1st book, and now this book was the best of the 3, Brother Odd. I really did enjoy this one. Very quickly takes place, he leaves Picomundo, which is his hometown, which was the setting in both of the first 2 novels, to kind of slow his life down a little bit. So he goes to a monastery where he is not looking to become a monk, but he's just kind of living among the monks right now. And sure enough, danger and mystery finds him once again, and he has to go into pure Odd Thomas superhero mode to try and help these monks and help the children at the monastery avert this pending doom of theirs that is coming. So yeah, like I said, it was the best of the series so far for me. I'm excited now. It's reignited for me to move on with this series. And the next one I believe is Odd Hours. So hey, if you are an Odd Thomas fan and you know anything about Odd Hours, let me know how you like that one down below, and what I'm in store for the rest of the series. Once again, thank you for checking out my video. As I always say, if you're into this kind of thing, if you're into reading, if you're into collecting, I do a lot of movie videos as well. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe as well. Those always help the cause. Happy reading, and we'll talk to you guys soon.